cut my hair off the night before I left, the amputation represented more than a mere physical transformation. It represented an internal unfurling. My wanderlust had set in. I was tired of being the perfect daughter, the one that never took risks, the one that was terrified of loss, the overachiever with a 3.8 grade point average and varsity boyfriend, like a Russian egg that is painted so beautifully you don't immediately notice the cracks. I was alone in my car, driving towards Nevada. It felt familiar, being alone, the empty passenger seat. She died when I was young. I was a motherless daughter. I taught myself to cook, to clean, to be a young woman. I always tried to fit in, yet I felt like a rose in a field of lilies. I passed Starbucks on the road. I have an aversion to corporate America, as I have an aversion to most aspects of American culture. They bore me. There is no depth, no appreciation for art or culture. I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My grandfather was a photographer. My dad works in abstracts. Creativity is genetically inevitable. Salvador Dali and Frida Kahlo were great inspirations in my life. I appreciated how their art spoke to me. I never felt isolated, awkward, or lonely in the presence of great art. It was my first true love. It was my first time at Burning Man. I drove into the heart of the dusty Nevada plains. 2004, and the theme was Vault of Heaven. I dreamed about what it would be like being locked inside, away from all the tools with silicone body parts and fake platinum smiles, paper thin, paper dolls. Entering the gates was rebirth, a simplified equation, dust and wind filling wide open spaces. Specks of black humanity amidst endless expanse, rows and rows of tents and cars, aluminum stitches in the earth's flesh. The women were their own unique matchbox shrines, decorated in remnants of old clothing and Halloween costumes. Waterfalls of silk and lace. It was my first time seeing unbelievable requests being granted, women using their bodies as chalkboards, writing wishes in black ink, throwing pennies into invisible wishing wells. Riding topless through a crowd of 35,000 people, I expected to be groped and degraded, the usual catcalls and whistles. Hippies and art freaks are a different breed. Men threw flower petals, called me a goddess, and asked if they could feed me drugs. The art installations were a trip, each one an obscure and weird art-induced fantasy, dipped in the fairy dust of the Black Rock Playa. My first time seeing a piece of artwork that brought to mind Rainbow Bright being trapped inside a giant condom. I imagine a world in which cum is multicolored and shoots out like rainbow Skittles. Then there are the human cupcakes. I feel like Alice in Wonderland. Only this tea party had giant cupcakes and I was on ecstasy. No one warned me I was going to want to lick everything I came in contact with. Love in the air. So is LSD and 2CB. His name was Sebastian. Wavy jet hair and turquoise eyes. Did I want to walk into the desert for sunrise? I said yes. The sun slowly rose. My eyes transformed into rainbow prisms, a palette of psychedelic delight, patterns of symmetry everywhere. The night they burned the man was the climax. I drank a bottle of red wine with fellow gypsy spirits. I felt the heat of the flames melting the makeup off my face. I burned a lot of pain that night. Knocked down walls in my soul, a mass of bodies and sweat and tears, watching the smoke unfurling into the darkness, disappearing. Burning Man reminded me that everything in life is impermanent, a dance of matter constantly in motion. Before this experience, my relationship with art was adoration and distance. I would trace the lines of my favorite paintings and books, or stare at framed masterpieces hanging neatly on museum walls, a voyeur trying to satisfy my artistic desires. Burning Man changed that. I was the participant. This art I could feel, I could touch. I could add or subtract to the artistic equation with the mere presence of my body. Thank you.